Hey everybody, it's Delta Shiny Zeta here, and today we're going to be looking at Bad Choices, the Have You Ever party game. Before I talk about how to actually play this game, here are a couple recommendations for this play style. Recommended for ages 17 and up, 3 or more players, and usually on average takes about 20 to 45 minutes for a game. The 3 to plus players, you may think that just means infinite, and technically it is, like you could play with 30 people. I don't advise that. In general, I found games from anywhere between 3 to 7 people to be the best. 10 to 12 at the most, I'll just say 12. It's still okay. Anything beyond that, that's just a little too much. Anyway, this game here, it's a pretty fun game because you can actually implement drinking rules if you're into parties, like just social gatherings like that, with some drinking involved, or you can just play for fun. Either way, it is a pretty fun game to play. So, upon opening the box, you're going to see a couple of things. The very first thing is going to be the rule book, and the rules are actually pretty simple. It's just this little thing here. That's all it is. I'm going to basically be demonstrating to all of you how to play it, so we're not going to be looking at that. The next thing, depending on the version that you actually have, you may get some little promotion thing. They have other games such as Bad People, find out what your friends really think of you, and a bunch of other games too, which you can see over here, that are published by DICE. But anyway, we're not here for that. And then the other thing that you're going to see is basically all the cards. And that's all you need for this game. So in order to play this game and do a setup, it's pretty simple. Just simply remove all the cards. You can go and put the box away so you can make more space. And what you're going to do is shuffle the deck. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just shuffle this deck. It's a lot. It's a lot of cards, as you can see. A huge amount. You don't really need to play with all of them. If you just think it looks a little ridiculous, fine. Fair enough. Cut it in half and then put the rest here and then put the others in the box. If you ever run out of cards while playing the game, just take out the other half in the box and put them there. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and shuffle all these, so just give me one sec. Alright, and they are shuffled. So once they're shuffled, what you want to do is go ahead and put the deck face down pretty much around the middle of the table within easy reach of everybody else. So I'll just put them right there. I'm going to be demonstrating a 4-player game as an example. So what you want to do is basically distribute 6 cards to each player. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Here we go. So that is 6 cards to each player. Put the remainder cards back on top and the deck face down. Every player can go ahead and take their hand and look at the cards in their hand, and that's the setup. It's a very simple setup to play this game. Now let's talk about how to actually play the game. The very first thing you're going to want to do is decide who actually is going to go first. Now the actual rules, it actually says here that the player to the left of the last person to arrive begins the game. It's a little silly in a way. You could go by that, or you could just randomize whoever goes first. It doesn't really matter, to be honest, as long as you are in agreement of who actually goes first. Let's just say for the sake of this game, the player here is going to go first. Once somebody goes first, play is going to proceed clockwise. This means that this player is going to go next, followed by this one, and this one. So let's just say this is player A, B, C, and D in that order. Alright? So once players go ahead and decide who's going to go first, everybody can take a look at the cards in their hand. Now you're basically going to find about 4 different types of cards. You're going to find regular question cards, such as this one right here. Would you sell one of your kidneys for 100,000? Okay. You're also going to find, these right here are all the same, by the way, as you can see. It's just regular question cards. You're also going to find all play cards. That's the second type of card. You're also going to find draw cards. There is either say draw +1 or draw +2. And the last card, which this hand doesn't actually have, but maybe this one will. Yep, right here. You're going to find skip cards. These are basically the 4 different types of cards that you're going to find. So anyway, as far as how to win the game, the first player to run out of cards in their hand, to empty out their hand, is the winner. Everybody starts with 6, and the way that you lose cards is pretty simple. When it's your turn, you're going to be able to play 1 card out of all the cards in your hand. Not more than 1, just 1 card. Basically what's going to happen is that you get to go ahead and pick a question, such as, let's say, this one. Like I said, would you sell one of your kidneys for 100,000? Once you select a question, you also have to pick a player, obviously not including yourself. So from here, player A can choose player B, C, or D, and ask them this question. Let's say that this player asks player B, alright player B, would you sell one of your kidneys for $100,000? If the player responds with a yes, then you get to take your card and discard it face up. Discarding means to just place it pretty much face up next to the draw pile. That means you discarded it. So you have one less card in your hand, which means you're closer to winning. If the player answers with no when you ask them the question, you have to take the card and put it back into your hand. So essentially the goal of what you're trying to do is to ask a question to a player that you think is going to answer with yes. You don't want to ask questions to players that you think they're going to answer with no. So let's say that they did answer yes to that. Fine, I get to go and put this and put it right there, and my turn's over. If they answer with no, just take it back and your turn's over regardless. You only get to play one card per turn, so it doesn't matter what they do, yes or no, you're still only going to be able to end your turn right after that. One thing that I want to clarify with this, and I'll go ahead and pull up the rules here really quick so I can read this alongside all of you. A couple things. Answers can only be yes or no, as it says right here. They can only be yes or no. You want to make this very clear to everybody before the game begins by actually telling them, hey, if you're not sure about something, you have to pick a side and lean towards something, either yes or no. You can't answer with maybe or not sure or kind of, stuff like that. You can't do that. Second thing is that each player must answer every question honestly. You can't just cheat and say no to something that you are actually going to say yes to just because you don't want the player to discard a card. That's not fair. It ruins the game for everybody, so don't do that, please. So the second thing that you can go ahead and do, let me go ahead and take this card back and rewind a turn here. Instead of asking a question, let's go ahead and do an all play. So, if your card says all play, you're not going to be picking one player, but every other player in the game is going to answer your question. So this one says, would you accept $20,000, but a loud family of hyenas wakes you up 3 times a night for a year? That's a very oddly specific question, but the point is that this question was asked. So, in an all-play question, because in this particular case there are 3 other players, that means I need to get at least 2 of the 3 players to answer yes. If 2/3 of the players answer yes, meaning majority, then I get to go ahead and discard the card. If only 1 player or no players answer with yes, then I have to put the card back in my hand, unfortunately. So the goal of an all play is to get the majority of players to answer yes. If you're playing with a total amount of odd number of players, meaning let's say there were 5, you would be asking the question to the 4 other players. If there's ever an even number of players that you're asking an all play question to, you only have to get half of it, 50%. So if there were 4 other players, I would need to get 2 out of 4. If there were 6 other players, I would need to get 3 out of 6. If there were 5 other players, I need to get 3 out of 5. So that's the all play question. The third type of card is the draw +1 card, or the draw +2 card. It's also +2. For this one, you simply choose 1 player and they must draw an extra card, which is actually bad in this game for a player to draw a card. So with this, let's say I go ahead and choose player C. I'm going to say, alright, player C, you're going to draw a card. When you use it, you get to just go ahead and place it face up and you discard it face up immediately, which is nice, right? However, there is a downside to the draw card. If that player has any draw cards, they can actually rebuttal your draw by playing a draw card themselves. This player unfortunately has none, which means that they can't rebuttal. However, let's go ahead and say that instead it was used on player B, who does have a draw card. So let's say that player A is like, alright, player B, I'm going to use a draw one card. However, the player can actually rebuttal and say, actually I have a draw card. They can use a draw +2 or a draw +1 to basically add up the total number of draws and is rebutting it back to you. So now you have to play a draw card. Now the total number of cards is 3, a 2 plus a 1. So if you don't play a draw card, you have to draw 3. That's what we have. We have nothing, which means we're forced to draw 3. So we got to go 1, 2, 3. So draw cards are nice if you can get them off, but they're also risky because that means that you may have to draw more cards if you don't have a lot of draw cards remaining, which could be bad. This can go on forever. Let's say you had a draw +2 as a rebuttal. That'd be 5 total, so now they have to draw 5. But if they had another 1, they could send it back to you, and now you have to draw 6 cards. It goes back and forth between both players until that player says, alright, no more. Then that player has to draw the total number of draw pluses that were used in that turn against each other. Pretty brutal, actually. Alright, so that was the draw card, and now let's talk about the final one, the skip card. The skip card is actually pretty simple. It says just choose 1 player to skip their next turn. This one is pretty nice because you get to just use it, choose a player to skip their turn, and they just skip their turn. That one has no rebuttal allowed, so whoever you choose, you just simply get a free discard, and then they skip their next turn. I did find that it's helpful to go ahead and put the skip card in front of that player face up until it's their turn, so that everybody remembers that the turn is skipped. Once their turn comes around, then they can go ahead and put it in a discard pile. Alright, and that's basically all 4 cards. Again, the goal is to go ahead and try to get rid of all the cards in your hand first. There is one more thing I want to mention though, and you may have already thought about it. What if you ask every player individually once per turn, you know, and they all answer no? That means it'd be impossible for you to win, right? Because there's no way you can get rid of a card if not a single player in the game can say yes to it. No worries. There's one other option you have in your turn. Instead of playing a question card, an all play card, a draw card, or a skip card, what you can do is choose to not play any cards at all during your turn, and you get to basically rearrange your hand however you want. What this means is that you get to throw away as many cards as you want as possible. However you want, you can discard 1, or you can discard 5, or you can discard all of them. Basically, if you choose to do this and you discard them all, you have to then draw the same number of cards. So let's say I'm like really not liking my hand. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna choose to discard 4 cards. I'm gonna discard those. I have to draw 4. 2, 3, 4. But that's my turn. If you choose to do that, that's the end of your turn. You cannot play a card that turn. So this way you can actually fix your hand and get rid of cards that you don't think anybody's going to answer yes to, or cards that you know for sure everybody has already answered no to. This of course keeps it fair, because if you have a really bad question card, you obviously want to get rid of it so you can draw something new and fresh. And that's basically it for the game. There's not much more beyond that. The only other thing I will say is that there are some additional variants that you can use. There's an all play variant where instead you can ask basically every single player every question instead, and the goal is for the first person to answer yes to 10 questions first is the winner. Basically every question becomes an all play question. Think of it like that. Another variant is the whole liar thing. If somebody does get caught in a lie, then you can do some kind of like dare punish for them. And then the other one is to get loose as well. Each time you answer yes to a question, take a drink. Pretty cool if you want to go in and use one of those variants, but those are the variant options. Overall, that's it for the game. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and you did find it helpful. So as always, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and turn on those notifications if you enjoy the video. I will see you all later. Bye bye everyone. Have a great day.